Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the County Council's meeting taking place on Wednesday, the 25th of January 2023. This meeting is being broadcast live to our YouTube channel. Before we commence with today's formal business, could I ask everyone in the chamber to switch off or make silent their mobile phones, please? Before we move to the business on the agenda, I would like to remind you of the housekeeping rules for the meeting. As in all of our previous council meetings, any requests to speak must be made by using your voting handset. Once invited to speak, please stand up and face forward and switch on the closest microphone to you. If you encounter any problem with your voting handset, please raise your handset in the air and a member of the committee service will assist. Can I ask all those attending the meeting to be COVID considerate? Should anyone wish to socially distance or wear face covering, they still can, as a matter of personal choice. Can I remind members that you should be respectful to each other during the meeting and observe the members' code of conduct. There should be no shouting or pointing of fingers, and once a point of order has been dealt with, it will not be revisited. If able to, members should stand when speaking. Thank you. Finally, I would like to extend a warm welcome to the members of the public attending the meeting. You are very welcome to attend and observe proceedings. However, I request politely that you do not disrupt the meeting. Members, it is with great sadness that I have to formally report 2 deaths of former councillors and Alderman Mary Hargood, the former councillor Ronnie Mair. Mary represented the Newton Hall electoral division on the County Council from 1993 and 1997, and the Framingham ward on the Durham City Council between 1991 and 2003, and the Crossgate and Framingham Moor ward on the City Council between 2003 and 2007. Mary was also Mayor of Durham in 2004 to 2005. Ronnie represented the Seaham Electoral Division on Durham County Council between 2005 and 2008, and also served on the Seaham Town Council. Can I ask members to stand for a moment as we remember Mary and Ronnie? Okay, please be seated. Thank you. Item 1, minutes. Can I have a mover, please?
Chair, can I move the minutes?
Yes, Councillor. And a seconder?
Second the minutes, Chair.
To confirm the minutes of the ordinary and extraordinary meeting held on the 7th of December 2022, are the minutes agreed? Item 2, declarations of interest, please. No, thank you. Item 3, Chairman's announcement. Colleagues, Holocaust Memorial Day is the day for everyone in the UK to remember the millions of people murdered in the Holocaust under Nazi prosecution and in the genocides which followed in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur. It is commemorated annually on the 27th of January, which coincides with the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau and the largest Nazi concentration extermination camp. To mark Holocaust Memorial Day, we are holding a free event on Friday, the 27th of January, at the Gala Theatre in Durham City, where Professor Mark Cebulski will share the story of his family's life in occupied Poland during World War II. Durham County Hall will be lit purple on the evening, and the Durham Cathedral is also marking the day by hosting a display of artwork by St Leonard's in Belmont School to reflection the Holocaust Memorial Day theme in 2023, Ordinary People. It is essential that we continue to reflect on these harrowing events, which demonstrate what can happen when discrimination and prejudice takes hold. It's also a stark reminder of why it's so important to promote tolerance and equality, and to work together to eradicate hate crime. Colleagues, since the last council meeting, I have attended several events, including the County Council Staff Awards on the 7th of December and the CMC Cadets Awards Night on the 15th of December. I have attended some beautiful carol services at Shildon, Stanley and Furry Hill, and watched the Mencap Nativity on the 17th of December. Moving on to some recent council successes, I am pleased to report that Durham was recognised for its efforts in reducing and recycle waste at the National Recycling Awards. We won the Campaign of the Year for our waste, electric and electronics equipment recycling project, which gives small electrical and battery-operated items the chance to become something new. The Council shared live services which support almost 100 people across County Durham and Hartlepool has been rated as outstanding by the Care Quality Commission. Durham County Council has once again been awarded a Disability Confident Leader Level 3 status by the Department of Works and Pensions. Since the initial accreditation 3 years ago, we have established a staff disability and allies network which continues to grow and provide support for disabled staff, as well as acting as a voice as to how improvements can be made. And finally, the County Council and some of our local care homes we work with have won 2 accolades at the National Reminiscence in Interactive Therapy Activities RITA Awards. The Council and the homes piloting RITA were presented with a silver award in the RITA Service Star Award category, and Redworth House Care Home in Shildon won the Bronze Award for the best use of RITA to prevent falls. The RITA equipment has been trialled in 12 care homes in the county, where user-friendly interactive screens and tablets are used to assist residents, particularly those with memory impairments, through listening to the music, watching news reports of significant historical events, listening to wartime speeches, playing games and watching films and karaoke. I am sure the Council will join me in congratulating all staff involved in the achievements of these awards. Item 4, Leader's Report. Can I ask the Leader of the Council?
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, everyone. You will be aware that just after Christmas, the government announced it was minded to agree a devolution deal for the North East, and that last week Cabinet endorsed the proposal. If it progresses, the deal will bring £4.2 billion of investment to the North East, including £48 million a year to support inclusive economic growth and support our regeneration priorities, and £900 million for transport. This in addition to an indicative budget of £60 million a year for adult education and skills, and £69 million of investment in housing and regeneration. The significant investment and the devolution of powers to our region is all the more important given last week's announcement on levelling up funding. The public consultation on how devolution will work begins next week, with details of how to get involved available on our website. I would encourage you all to share the link with residents and businesses in your wards so that we can ensure everyone has the opportunity to have their say. We remain hugely ambitious for County Durham and will not let last week's news deter us from our plans to build our economy and further develop our communities. Thank you.
Do any members have any questions on the report? Councillor Carl Marshall.
Thanks, Chair. Given that the Council and our communities have been rejected for the 5 levelling up bids at a cost of over £2 million to the taxpayer, the City of Culture bid was rejected and we've had over £250 million taken from us from our budgets, resulting in us having to up council tax potentially in a few weeks' time. We've got the highest levels of child poverty out of many communities across the country and lower life expectancy.
Excuse me, Councillor Marshall. It's the leader's report, not speeches, so it's questions.
Yeah, I've got it is a question, Chair.
Oh. So could you come please to the question?
Yeah,
Thank
of course
you.
I can. We've got many families relying on food banks which appear to be normalised through the government. Can the Leader of the Council please explain to the Council
He is just asking the question now. Okay,
Thank you, Chair. Can the Leader of the Council please explain to the councillors and to our communities what she now thinks levelling up looks like to County Durham and our people? Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. I think we have, over the last 18 months, absolutely demonstrated our ambition for County Durham, an ambition that has been lacking. But I would like to point out that regardless of what we'd submitted, it's been announced this week that we wouldn't have been successful with any of it because the criteria was changed following the submission date, so that anybody who received funding in the first round wouldn't get anything in the second round. And we will be taking this up with government along with all other areas who submitted and were successful in round 1. And again, I look across the floor and you look questioning about what I say, just as you have in everything else. I'll pass that over to your leader who can read it. And you'll find it on the website. It's available for everyone to say, just to confirm exactly what I'm saying. We were successful in getting to the last 4 bids with the City of Culture bid, something that the administration over there weren't even prepared to enter into. And to get that publicity amounted to over £8 million worth of publicity for County Durham. We couldn't have bought that. So I believe that this administration has, at every opportunity, showed that County Durham is first and foremost their priority for everybody who lives here, and we are ambitious about taking us forward and not living in the past.
Councillor Marshall, have you got a supplementary or not?
Chair, I think the obvious question is, how do we deliver on the ambition that the Leader of the Council has just outlined without the support of a failing Tory government in Westminster?
By taking control, and that's exactly what we've done with devolution, not being inward looking, but being external looking, working with partners and not assuming, as has happened in the past, that we can do everything on our own, but that we work with partners, we work with colleagues across the area, and we work for what's best for everybody here.
Could I just remind you, it is questions when I bring in other members, please. Thank you. Fraser Tinsley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure you'll forgive me the opportunity of a short preamble before I do ask the question to provide context for the question.
Sorry, no, it's got to be a question. Sorry, no, it's a question.
There is a short preamble, though. Can I say we were bitterly disappointed in Winnington and Hunwick that we weren't successful in getting...
No,
11
sorry,
no
please,
votes.
order. A
But
question.
would-
A question, please.
If you forgive me, I will ask the question.
Got to get there.
Would Councillor Hopgood agree that failure to secure any bids in round 2 of Levelling Up shows a Conservative government now turning its back on County Durham and writing us off as an area for levelling up, and in light of this, is now not the time for her party to get out of bed with the Conservatives as part of the coalition running Durham County Council? Because I know for the people of Winnington and Hunwick, that would be in their benefit. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tinsley, for your question. The last time I looked, the colleagues that I work with on this side of the chamber don't have a position in government, and I don't believe any of you are MPs, is that right? Or sit in Parliament? No, thank you.
Have you got a supplementary?
I'm sure that Councillor Hopgood would confirm as a supplementary that those persons she has just referred to are also members of the Conservative and Unionist Party. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just refer Councillor Tinsley to the fact that for the question you've asked, I'm going to also make the assumption that every single member sat on that side of the chamber supported the Iraq War, because that's what your government did when they were in government.
Order. Order, please. Councillor Eddie Adam, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll try and move away from the context that I was going to give, and hopefully members can understand what I'm trying to say in relation to that. Chair, on Monday at the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, we heard from 2 prominent coalition members of the committee that these 5 bids for levelling up were going to fail because the council had already secured funding from the first round of bids. If the leader had full confidence that the bids would be successful in the second round, what evidence can she give us to confirm this? And Chair, can the leader also confirm whether her cabinet will use the council's existing £12.4 million match funding and £10 million MTF allocation and the surplus £1.8 million feasibility reserve to ensure that these bids are delivered for the people of this county? Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. I wasn't at the committee on Monday, so I don't know who said that. The information I just received yesterday, so I'm not aware of that. I believe, without having the budget in front of me, that the match funding was 8 million, not 12.1. But I will check that and I'll get you an answer in writing. And with the best will in the world, we can't make that stretch to £120 million. But we will be looking at each of those bids that were unsuccessful. We'll be looking at the criteria now that we know that apparently there'll be there'll be a third round of bidding. But equally, we'll want to know the criteria before we enter that, because if it remains as what's just been said, and if you've already had one, you don't get any more, then I wouldn't expect us to be submitting a bid for it to fail on the first round. But it emphasises exactly what we've done with regards to devolution, with that money coming to the North East, and there is a way with £4.2 billion of investment, there is a pot that we can surely bid into.
Have you a supplementary?
Yes, Chair. Just in relation to the Cabinet report, as well as the Corporate Overview and Management Board meeting, it was actually confirmed there that the 1.8 million feasibility study money would actually be put into reserves. Is this no longer going to be the case? Thank you.
As I said, I'll check the figures from that. I wasn't at the meeting, so thank you.
Councillor Olwengun.
Thank you, Chair. I want to ask a question, but I do also want to ask Councillor Hopgood, as the leader, whether she doesn't feel that her and her cabinet have been totally humiliated by this Conservative government's rejection of all 5 of the Levelling Up bids. That's my first question, because I would certainly feel that she should feel that humiliation in her leadership when these bids were actually in. Can I also ask, I don't want to doubt Councillor Hopgood in what she is telling us from across the floor, but it's difficult not to when, for a start, Councillor Hopgood didn't
Question,
even,
please.
the question
Councillor
is
Gunn.
coming, Chair. The question is coming when she didn't even, in her report, actually acknowledge anything to do
Please,
with
Councillor
the
Gunn, can I have the
rejection
question
of the
for the
bids.
Chair?
So, Councillor Hopgood, Chair, has offered this information, which I haven't read yet, across to support as evidence what she's saying about what this Tory party
Sorry, Councillor
government
Gunn, I'm
is
still
doing.
waiting for the
My
question.
is, Chair, my question is, if you'll allow me, will Councillor Hopgood provide this information to all members as soon as possible so that we can read it properly and look at it in a way that is going to allow us to take notice of what she's saying? Thank you.
No, do I feel humiliated? No, because I haven't done anything wrong. So absolutely not. We put in those applications in good faith, as did the other 500 plus councils. Yes, you can share that. I received it last night, but I am quite aware often that the opposition don't like to receive things at last minute. So I will send it to you later today.
Have you got a supplementary, Councillor Gunn?
Yes, Chair, just to ask Councillor Hopgood, is this absolutely public knowledge? Is it public knowledge now?
Yeah, I'm sure if you go on the LGC website, you'll see it there, or you might see it in newspaper reports, because it was at a committee of Parliament on Monday.
And we can make it public knowledge too. Thank you, Chair.
Could members please note that this item is question on the leader's report, not preamble or speeches, please. Moira McCain.
Thanks, Chair. I was just wondering if the leader could clarify how much of County Durham taxpayers' money has been spent on putting these bids together, and also the City of Culture bid, and will the same bids be going forward to the next round of levelling up funding, particularly the Bowburn Relief Road, or are we starting again with the public finances?
Chair, just to interject before Councillor Hopgood answers that, just to be clear, the question is in relation to items in the report. City of Culture bid's not covered in the report, so limit the question just to levelling up.
Thank you. I think I answered the second part of your question around future bids earlier on, when I said that we would be looking at them all and looking at what the conditions are for the next round of bidding. And I'll get you an answer on to how much it's cost moving forwards, in writing, sorry.
Have you a supplementary?
I asked a specific question on the Bowburn Relief Road, and I just wondered if, because it's in my ward, if the leader could address the Relief Road in some way for my residents.
Just to be specific, with regards to Durham City bid, which included the Relief Road, as along with every other bid, we will go back to look at them when we know what the criteria is for the next round. I would hope that there would be some appreciation that we did only receive this information late last week. We haven't had a time to go through it, and we've yet to receive any feedback from government around the reports.
Councillor Declan Mulholland, please.
Does the Leader of the Council realise how ludicrous it looks when she stands there and cites the Conservative Party and the government for the failure of the 5 Level Up bids, yet she's sat right next to the Leader of Durham County Council Conservative Group? And does she realise how ludicrous that looks to residents and indeed people across County Durham?
I don't believe that's in my report, so I shan't be answering it, but I shall also refer you to later on in this report when we're having a look at item 10, Debate Not Hate campaign. Thank you.
No further members are registered to speak, so we will move now on to item 5. Questions from the public. No questions have been received for today's meeting. Item 6. We have received one petition to present it today. The petition relates to play recreation area at the Wind Pelton, and this is to be presented by Councillor Danny Wood as Chair of Pelton Parish. Councillor Wood, can you present your petition, please?
Thank you, Chair. As you've sort of mentioned, I'm here today in my capacity as Chair of Pelton Parish Council for this item to present its 2 petitions under the petitions policy. One was they were both the same, but one's in writing and one was online. In introducing this petition, I'd just like to say a few words about how we got here and, for the benefit of members, what has happened so far. This site has been in the ownership of Durham County Council for many, many years. It's benefited from investment in the play equipment there as recently as 2017. It was not identified for development and has not been designated for development under the County Durham Plan. This area is maintained by Clean and Green. The play equipment on this site is part of our fixed play strategy and is classed as a Category C facility, which is the minimum amount of provision for a community the size of Pelton under our fixed play strategy. This is the only play area on this side of the road in the village of Pelton, and it's the only one of that size and the only one that's actually maintained by Durham County Council. Along with the Parish Council, Councillor Beattie, Councillor Pringle and myself have contacted the Cabinet Member about this issue and have highlighted our concerns about the process and about the impact this decision would have. Local members were invited to a meeting with the portfolio holder to informally discuss our views, and there seems to be a fixation on the fact that any development would require the play equipment to be enhanced. But our concern for our community is that better play equipment situated even further away from most of our residents would provide limited additional benefit in our community. We've already had experience of open space being removed on Erpeth Grange for a housing development under similar circumstances, and this has led to a situation where just 42 households are having to pay for the maintenance of the play equipment installed for the benefit of over 1,000 properties. It's been down to us as local members to sort out the mess that's been left behind as a result of this. If anything, the loss of this open green space will cause a great deal of harm and will place additional pressures on the local infrastructure. Development here would place even greater pressure on the now infamous Sausage About junction on the A693, which is now subject to over 32,000 vehicle movements a day. How much more additional traffic can this junction be expected to take before we look at signalising it? We've repeatedly been told that our concerns have been noted, and yet this process has rolled on and on. It was a private developer that told residents this land has been sold and that it would be built on, not Durham County Council as the landowner. The private developer refusing to meet with residents to discuss the concerns or to share what their plans are with our community. Durham County Council have since provided a site investigations licence to the developer, again against the wishes of local members and the wishes of the Parish Council. And in August, Durham County Council confirmed in writing that the site is being added to the Council's Register of Community Assets under the Localism Act 2011 as a result of the evidence that our communities provided when the Parish Council raised this through an initial petition. We know the value of this area to our community, and the Council have even acknowledged this by registering the site. Again, this process was instigated by the Parish Council, not by the local authority. Why is Durham County Council continuing to negotiate the sale of this land behind closed doors without any consultation with residents or our local community? This land should not need protecting, it's ours. It's within our gift to cease negotiations, refuse to sell this site and let our community continue to enjoy this vital open space. Thank you.
Can I thank Councillor Wood for presenting the petition to the Council. The petition will be forwarded to the appropriate services for a response. Thank you. Item number 7, report from the Cabinet. Can I ask the Leader of the Council to present the report, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just present the report as tabled. Thank you.
Any questions? No questions have been received in respect of the report. Can I ask the Council to note the report? Item number 8, update local code of corporate governance. Can I ask the Corporate Director of Resources to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. This report provides Council with a copy of the updated Local Code of Corporate Governance as approved by the Audit Committee on the 28th of November last year. The Local Code of Corporate Governance sets out how the Council fulfils the requirements of the Delivering Good Governance in Local Government framework and how it discharges its statutory duties with regards to ensuring it has the proper arrangements in place for the governance of its affairs. This document and the underpinning policies and strategies and arrangements it refers to are reviewed on an annual basis by our external auditors as part of the review of the annual governance statement. The updated code is attached to Appendix 2 to the report and is structured around the key governance principles of behaving with integrity, demonstrating strong commitment to ethical values and respecting the rule of law, acting in the public interest, defining and delivering outcomes, ensuring openness and comprehensive stakeholder engagement, managing risks and performance, and ensuring we have the capacity, capability and leadership to deliver. There have been no significant amendments to the statutory or best practice guidance that need to be addressed in the code, and the code has been revised to incorporate elements of the Council's governance arrangements that have been strengthened or updated to ensure we are, on an ongoing basis, effective and taking into account the annual governance review in 21-22. All these amendments were reviewed by the Audit Committee before approval in November last year. The recommendations, which are for Council to receive the report and the updated Local Code of Corporate Governance, are set out at paragraph 6, Chair.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on this report? Councillor Richard Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank the officers for bringing this report forward and also thank all the members of the Audit Committee for their oversight and review of the updated Local Code of Corporate Governance. The Code sets out how we comply with the principles of good governance, how we organise our decision-making and processes to ensure that we act in the public interest at all times, how we ensure that our decision-making is underpinned by robust risk assessment, and how we ensure that decision-making is transparent and accountable. And it is, of course, also a statutory requirement. The updated code as appended to this report has been reviewed and agreed by the Audit Committee, and on that basis I'm happy to move that we note and agree the recommendations as set out at paragraph 6 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask the Council to receive the report, please? Item 9, Local Government Boundary Commission Review. Can I invite the Head of Legal and Democratic Services to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. This report seeks to update Council on activity undertaken in relation to the Local Government Boundary Commission Review since the last report to Council on the subject on the 21st of September 2022. Members will recall that at that meeting you agreed to submit a proposal in relation to council size of 98 councillors. On the 22nd of November, the Local Government Boundary Commission confirmed that it would be recommending a council size of 98. It's possible that that figure may change slightly if fewer or more councillors in an electoral division would better achieve the objectives of the review. The Boundary Commission are now consulting on warding patterns, and the consultation closes on the 30th of January. The Electoral Review Member Working Group has continued to meet since September in order to progress work in relation to warding patterns. And the working group agreed that the best way to do that would be for political groups to nominate representatives who would work on proposals on behalf of their groups. To assist with the formulation of proposals, members were provided with an analysis of the current electoral registration arrangements, including a breakdown of polling districts, existing wards and parishes, as well as the current and forecast electorate figures. Members were also given an example warding pattern for 98 councillors to demonstrate how the mapping software creates new divisional boundaries. The working group met on the 6th of January to consider progress, and it was clear from the discussions of the group that it would be impractical to present proposals to Council to seek a single agreed proposal. The group therefore agreed that it would be better for each political group to submit a proposal rather than to seek an agreed Council submission. In addition to submissions by political groups, the group noted and reiterate that individual councillors as well as members of the public may also submit proposals to the Local Government Boundary Commission. But in making such submissions, it's important to note that they should be accompanied by a narrative to explain how the proposals provide the best balance and meet the Local Government Boundary Commission's criteria. Just to reiterate, the closing date for consultation is the 30th of January. After that date, the Local Government Boundary Commission will consider all submissions and propose a new pattern of electoral divisions, division names and electorates, taking account of the recommendations received. There will then be a final opportunity to comment on those proposals between the 25th of April and the 3rd of July. The Local Government Boundary Commission is expected to publish its final proposals in September 23. Chair, the recommendations are at paragraph 5 to note the progress made and that each political group intends to submit proposals to the Local Government Boundary Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Do any members wish to speak on the report? Councillor Carl Marshall, please.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to sort of comment that it's somewhat disappointing that the Council's not putting forward a proposal, but I understand the political position the Council's in might make that somewhat difficult. And I just wanted to thank the officers who I think have really engaged with the political group, certainly from the Labour group's perspective, in a really positive way to allow us to get to a position where we can make a submission as a political group. So I want to put that on record, our group's thanks to the team and how hard they've worked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'd also like to thank officers for the amount of work involved. I actually, surprisingly, have a contradictory view to Councillor Marshall in that I think it's democracy at work that we're not putting forward a representation from the whole council, and bearing in mind he hasn't been to a single meeting, I think it's slightly hypocritical to stand here and say that he's disappointed when he hasn't participated in it at all.
There's nobody else registered.
Sorry, Chair, can I have a point of personal explanation, please? Because I think that's slightly misleading, but...
Points of personal explanation relate to something that you've said, clarifying something that you've said in the meeting.
Yes, sir,
so
Chair.
if it's an explanation to something you've said in the meeting, this meeting...
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to clarify that the officers who worked so hard on this proposal worked alongside Councillor Danny Wood, who was fully engaged in the working group and worked with those officers to produce it. So, you know, the best person for the job, and Danny was it from our side. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Can I ask the Council to note the report? Item number 10, Overview and Scrutiny 6-monthly update. Can I invite Councillor Craig Martin, Chair of the Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, to present the report, please?
Chair, I'm very pleased to present to the Council the overview and scrutiny update which sets out some of the activity we have undertaken in the past 6 months up to November 2022. It has again been a very busy period for scrutiny. We continue to encourage inclusiveness, transparency in our work and aim to increase our input into policy development. And to ensure we work well, we are guided by the 4 principles of effective scrutiny: to provide a constructive, critical friend challenge, to amplify the voices and concerns of the public, to be led by independent-minded people who take responsibility for their role, to drive improvement in public services. I would like to give you some brief examples of the work we have covered so far. The Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Management Board, led by myself and Councillor Lyons, have again contributed to the budget process through consideration and scrutiny of the MTFP. The board has also scrutinised the revised County Durham Poverty Strategy and Action Plan. As the cost of living crisis impacts our communities, this strategy and action plan play an important role in the response by the Council and our partners. The board has welcomed the opportunity to comment on the strategy and has forwarded comments to the government on our concerns around the causes and effects of poverty in County Durham. We will continue to keep a close eye on the progress of the strategy. Adults' Wellbeing and Health, led by Councillor Patricia Joplin and Councillor Joanne Howie, has examined proposals for structural change in commissioning arrangements, responsibilities and collaborative working between the NHS and local government social care. Children and Young People, chaired by Councillor Anne Reid and Councillor James Coslett, welcomed the opportunity to comment on the Growing Up in County Durham draft strategy. Economy and Enterprise, chaired by Councillor Bill Moist and Councillor Andrew Jackson, considered the emerging inclusive economic strategy. Comments from members have helped shape the final strategy. The Environment and Sustainable Communities, chaired by Councillor Bev Coult and Councillor Jonathan Elmer, considered an update of resources and waste management services in County Durham. To assist with their understanding of the subject, members undertook a visit to various recycling and waste plants. Safer and Stronger Communities, chaired by Councillor Joyce Charlton and Councillor Phil Heaviside, held a focused briefing session and a special committee meeting to consider the draft antisocial behaviour strategy. Their views formed part of the consultation response to the Safer Durham Partnership. Chair, this update gives you a flavour of the work we have involved in so far, for which I now present you. I ask everybody accept the report and I welcome any comments or questions from the Chamber. Thank you.
Do any members wish to speak on the report? Councillor Mark Wilkes.
Thank you, Chair. As a Cabinet member, I just want to say and pass on my thanks to all the chairs and vice chairs and to Craig for what I'm seeing as being really important scrutiny work. People working together across party, joint administration, non-joint administration, opposition, working together to help us as Cabinet to make sure that we move our county forward. I see it working really well. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I really, thank you very much. Just very much welcome the fact that we have a Cabinet that are very much open to critical challenge. And I think equally, I myself have raised a few things. I think Councillor Marshall highlighted one of the things that I'd raised that I was a bit annoyed with in the budget. So I really welcome the fact that we have a Cabinet that are listening to scrutiny and acting on it. And I look forward to seeing you read and look at all the challenge that we will be making over the coming years and reacting to that as well.
Item number 11, Local Government Association Debate Not Hate campaign. Can I ask the Head of Legal and Democratic Service to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report details a campaign by the Local Government Association to raise public awareness of the role of councillors in their communities, encourage healthy debate, improve responses and support for local politicians facing abuse and intimidation. The campaign is informed by the outcomes of a call for evidence in October 2021, and the key findings and themes of that are set out at paragraphs 10 and 11 to the report. In light of the findings, the LGA made 7 recommendations which are set out at paragraph 12. The most relevant to local authorities is recommendation 1, which relates to the councils and relevant partners taking more responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of councillors, taking proactive steps to prevent abuse and intimidation, and work with agencies to support councillors' mental health. The report also summarises the local picture in terms of the intimidation and abuse experienced by councillors. It also explains the steps taken and measures in place for members, which includes advice in relation to personal security, the development of a social media toolkit, which advises members on how to stay safe online, how to report abuse and intimidation, and where there are specific incidents, the process of developing risk assessments and providing specific advice and guidance to the relevant members. Where appropriate, the council may take action or alternatively work with the police for them to take action. And I should note that we do have an excellent working relationship with Durham Constabulary, who are very responsive to concerns of abuse and intimidation when they're raised. Councillors also, importantly, have access to health and wellbeing support available under the Council's Employees Assistance Scheme. The Standards Committee received this report at its meeting on the 5th of December and agreed to add the campaign to its work programme so that it can monitor progress and request changes to the Council's arrangements where appropriate. In this regard, it's requested that officers review the social media toolkit and other guidance available to ensure that it reflects best practice and LGA guidance. The outcome of the review on the toolkit is due to be considered by the report at its meeting in March. By the committee at its meeting in March. The Standards Committee also agreed to recommend that Council sign up to the LGA's Debate Not Hate public statement, noting that individual councillors may also wish to sign the statement. Signing the statement lends support to the LGA's work in this area and acts as a call for action for the relevant government department to form a working group to bring together relevant agencies and partners to produce an action plan. The report references that over 400 councillors had signed the declaration when it was published in June, but that's actually since been updated by the LGA to over 500. Chair, the recommendations are at paragraph 6 to note that the campaign has been added to the Standards Committee work programme, and secondly, to agree that the Leader of the Council signs the Debate Not Hate public statement on behalf of the Council. Thank you.
Can I have a mover? Councillor Nicholson.
As Chair of the Council Standard Committee, I am pleased to move the recommendations in this report. The key findings of the LGA called for the evidence to show that 7 in 10 councillors have reported having experienced abuse or intimidation in the last year. This is a worrying statistic, and it is important that as a council we can both support our elected members as well as participate in the LGA's work to address such behaviour more widely. As the Head of Legal and Democratic Services has explained, the Council takes incidents of abuse and intimidation towards councillors very seriously. And there is support and guidance in place for councillors who are the victims of such abuse. However, it is also important that we do not become complacent and that we keep our arrangements under review. The Standards Committee has agreed to include this campaign within its work programme so that it can keep up to date with the activities and benefit from the guidance and learning provided by the LGA. The committee will receive a regular report and will make recommendations as appropriate to ensure that the Council is doing all it can to support members and address instances of abuse and intimidation. As councillors and as a council, we have a role in setting the tone for debate and leading by example. Council support for the Debate Not Hate public statement helps us set that example. I would hope that all members support the recommendation that the Leader signs the statement on behalf of this Council.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Samantha Townsend, please.
Thank you. Am I allowed to give a statement? Yeah, thank you. I had the dubious pleasure of being on ITV News yesterday talking about this exact subject. Unfortunately, have been told not long after the murder of Joe Cox to my face that I should be dragged out into the street and shot. I have been both in public, near my children, and online accused of being a paedophile, and I have been subject to a 2-year-long period of online harassment where a member of our community, actually not my community, not in my ward, generated between 8 and 10 Twitter accounts in order to harass me and other female Labour politicians. And that man, to this day, still parades the brass plaque that was taken off Helen Goodman's office on Facebook for likes to impress his friends. So this is very real. I was in the local club that I support, the Railway Institute, when Helen Goodman's windows were put out. I had people who were at that point afraid to let me walk home alone because of the abuse I was receiving. So this is unfortunately very real. On that note, people should complain about councillors, absolutely put complaints in if things are warranted, but just remember when you do complain about a councillor, they get an email from a lawyer asking them to explain their situation. If anybody does want to talk to me about any of my activities, please come to me. I get an attempt at a formal complaint every 6 months. I don't know what that is about me. I know that other people don't get that. So please do come and talk to me if you're ever concerned about my conduct. Thank you.
Councillor Christine Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support this, the recommendations, and I'm horrified, as we all are, to hear about Councillor Townsend's experience. I would just like to point out it's just a small grammatical error, but before the Leader of the Council signs it, recommendation 4 says legislation should be passed to entitle councillors can withhold their home address. So I just think there's either a word missing or a word that needs to be changed there to say councillors can entitle councillors to withhold their home address. I just ask, could that be amended before it gets signed? Thank you.
Sorry, just to clarify, I can't spot in working through my iPad, but the statement is actually a statement that's actually on the LGA's website, so it won't actually be on the content of this report. So we'll go online and Councillor Hopgood will add her name on behalf. So there shouldn't be an error. It won't be replicated when we sign up to the statement.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Maura McCann.
Thank you. When I was working as an organiser for the Labour Party in County Durham at the last election, I experienced quite a lot of abuse and intimidation, particularly when I was working on the streets. And I just wanted to thank Durham Constabulary for the excellent work that they do in protecting us and all of the support that they've given me and other politicians to go about our democratic duties.
Thank you. Councillor Olwen-Gunn.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for giving me my Christian name as well as my surname. I think that I just want to applaud Councillor Townsend. I know that we did there, but I want to say it for actually being brave enough to come out and call these people out as well. I think it is a very brave thing to do. I think we have, many of us must have, at some time or another, to a lesser or, as in Councillor Townsend's case, a greater degree suffered at the hands, if you like, of I don't know, people who, for a variety of reasons, could be misogyny, could be racism, could be any sort of thing that people pick up on. And sometimes it's to do with your political parties, sadly. And this, I think, actually colours democracy in a really negative way for us. We try very hard in this chamber, I think, to be polite to each other and smiling and saying good morning. And sometimes that's a little difficult across the floor. But the other thing I would like to say is that during, and I'm not pointing anywhere, I'm using hand movements, but I would like to say, as well as with the police that Councillor McKeon has mentioned in terms of support, I would like to thank Durham County Council staff. And in particular, I'm going to point out the support I've had from the head of legal when I was actually in a situation of being harassed and bullied. So I think, and I know that heard from other councillors, that they too have received really good support from Durham County Council. So and obviously I don't see how anybody could be against this. I think it's a really positive way forward. And once again, to Councillor Townsend, well done. Very courageous, very brave. Well done.
Councillor Elizabeth Scott.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just also to commend Councillor Townsend for what she said. I've been at an LGA conference this week and heard some awful stories about things that have happened to fellow councillors across the board, and it's all of our responsibilities to make sure that we call it out and deal with it as effectively as we can, whoever the abuse is from or to. It's just not acceptable. And I would also echo Councillor Gunn's thanks to our head of legal, who's also offered me support in a similar situation.
Councillor Amanda Hopgood.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Again, I'd just like to echo thanks to both Councillor Nicholson and Councillor Townsend for proposing and second this. It's really important, and it will be an honour to sign it on behalf of the Council, but I would ask that all members also go on and sign it, because it is important for us all to take personal responsibility for this, to lead by example, and to call it out that it's not acceptable. There are probably less people in here that it hasn't affected than it has, and that's a sad state of affairs. And again, I would thank our officers and the police, because when this happened to me with online material, it is really important that we hold these people to account and that we stand up for what we believe in without intimidation and abuse. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Varty, please.
Thank you. A couple of years ago, through my union, I did Show Racism the Red Card, which really opened my eyes. And I'd like to think everybody over that side will say that if I pass you, I always say good morning, good afternoon, or hello, because I tend to not avoid anybody. That learned me a big lesson, and that's what I do. But like other members here, and today is one of them days, I have off days when I have to use my stick. And I've gone to see people, they've asked us to call round, and I've gone in, and a couple of times, and I have to say unfortunately, and don't mean disrespect against the opposite sex, I've gone to knock at the door and, oh, what you doing here? I says, well, you asked us to come to help me. Well, what's wrong with you? What have you got that stick for? And usually I try to laugh it up. I say, well, I have the stick in case anybody's rude to us, to keep you quiet until the police get here. And that's usually me, because most people know my kind of sense of humour. And that usually breaks it down. But that's what happens. And I have to say, most of the people that it's been done against is women. So let's try and do this, and thank you to the officers and everybody, and let's try and do this, and let's be a bit nicer to each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle Walton.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to obviously say well done to everybody who's spoken up about what's happened. I had a similar situation just literally weeks after I was first elected, where I had a hate mail letter handwritten and delivered by post to all of my neighbours in quite a few houses on my estate. It was an atrocious letter full of absolutely awful lies, but the impact that that had on my family, my son, the school, because they had mentioned things in this letter that obviously affected all the kids at school. My colleagues on this side of the room, especially those of us who were new, it was really awful and really scary. It ended up a special branch got involved due to the potential impact that this might have had. Thankfully, nothing further has happened, and I was very well supported by those around us at the time. But there is no doubt it really put a lot of fear into me, and I think, Samantha, it's coming through from you that it's not appropriate. I think it goes without saying, obviously, within this chamber, of course, we have a lot of challenge and a lot of disagreements and perhaps some confrontation or whatever. But outside of this chamber, I personally find that everybody does get on. We do treat each other like human beings, and we completely understand that what happens in here is one side of what we do, and we do it on a professional level, and then we take it outside and we're all friends again for the most part. So I just want to say I think this is a great idea. I fully want to support it. Well done to everybody for raising it, and I think if we do what we do and get it out there that we won't tolerate it, we're sending a united message from this chamber as councillors, as public representatives, that whatever goes on in here goes on in here, but once we get outside we support each other. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with everything that's been said, and I very much welcome it. As a suggestion, I think we should stop making personal assaults on each other on social media such as Facebook and things like that, because I do believe that gives other people a green light to do assaults on us. So I would ask everyone in here, regardless of party, we're all out just to do the best for our residents. So if we stop publicly assaulting each other on social media, that would go a long way in my opinion.
Thank you. Councillor Patricia Jobling.
Thank you, Chair. I just felt I should talk on this point because it isn't just one-sided. All councillors do receive threats and nasty things said about them. I was canvassing some time back, and there were two of us. I went to one door, my partner went to another door. The gentleman, it was my fault, I was very silly. He said, "Would you like to come in?" So I went in. As I went in, he locked the door. He then took hold of my leaflet, tore it up, and then I had a tirade of abuse. He wouldn't let me out. It wasn't until my partner was looking for me and realised what house I was in, that he banged on the door and that man let me out. It was the most frightening experience, because I thought, was he going to kill me? He was that angry. And I do think that, yeah, I support this totally, because I do think that people should be more circumspect what they put on Facebook. Everybody should be careful. I don't use Facebook for that reason. It's toxic. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alan Shield, please.
Thank you, Chair. Some very moving statements have been made today, and there's a common denominator. That common denominator is it has all been female elected members, and that's shocking. It really is. And it's from both sides of the chamber. And I just want to speak on behalf of the male councillors. I'm not sure whether other male members have suffered any consequences of abuse, be it by social media or otherwise, but you have a right and a compulsion to make sure that if it is, you need to raise that, you need to flag it up. Don't take the macho image and say, well, I'm a man, I'll just take it on the chin. You cannot do that. because if you do that, you understate the complexity of the issue and you're letting our female colleagues down. So can I ask everybody, male and female, to sign the declaration? Stand up for County Durham. We'll not tolerate this any longer. Yes, we can disagree, but we can disagree in public in a very tolerant manner. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Sutton-Lloyd, please.
Thank you, Chair. As a new member to the county, a few months ago, relatively, I did come here expecting that we would hear good debate and like-minded people together who would put their differences to one side politically and get on with helping making things better for all the people in County Durham. I think we could set an example by how we conduct ourselves in here. I think personal attacks of any form or hint are putting us in a bad light. I personally, from the point of view of listening to what's happened there with members, especially women, I was aghast at the aftermath of the Sarah Everard case, to learn from many of the female friends of mine who are considered very strong people, how worried they were about themselves in public. I think it's such an important subject that we should take it on board and we should set an example in this chamber.
Thank you. Can I ask the Council to note the report and agree that the Leader of the Council signs the debate, not hate, public statement on behalf of the County Council?
Chair, just to assist members, there's been a couple of calls for you all to sign up to the statement, and a few people expressing that they would be signing up to the statement. To assist, I will circulate the link to the statement to all members so that they can find it easily if they wish to sign it.
Thank you, Helen. Item 13, motions on notice. There are 3 motions for considerations. The motions will be dealt with in the order in which they were received and detailed on the agenda. I will hand over to the Head of Legal Democratic Services to explain the procedure.
Thank you, Chair. The usual rules of debate apply. So movers of motions have 5 minutes to speak. Seconders and other speakers have 3 minutes. Members may only speak once on a motion other than the mover, who has a 3-minute right of reply. If an amendment is moved and seconded, the debate is on that amendment. Only one amendment may be moved and discussed at any one time. No further amendments may be moved until the amendment under discussion has been dealt with. Each member can speak once on the amendment, except for the mover of the original motion. They have a right of reply before the amendment is put to the vote, but may not otherwise speak on it. If, following the vote, the amendment is carried, it becomes the substantive motion. If the amendment falls, the debate goes back to the original motion. Now, ordinarily, we would display any amendments on the screen, which we're not able to do this morning, but they will be circulated. If we get any, they will be circulated via email to all members, and I understand committee services colleagues do have hard copies as well that we'll be able to circulate if that's necessary. I'll leave it there, Chair. Thank you.
Chair, I would like to move an motion without notice to extend the time limit allowed for item 12 motions on notice beyond 30 minutes, but subject to the overall time limit for meetings of 2.5 hours. Thank you.
Chair, I'd like to second that.
Okay, thank you. Can it be agreed, please? Councillor Rob Crute, can you move your motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'll endeavour to get through this the best I can, despite sounding more like Delaney's donkey than I want to. My voice has gone all over the place lately. If this motion rings a bell, it's because I tabled an almost identical one to full council back in December 2021. At the time, the motion was amended by the coalition, who said they prefer to look at all alternative methods of taxation, not just a proportional property tax. Since then, we've heard nothing back, so that's more than a year wasted, while our residents still suffer the effects of the council tax regime. And I think most of us would agree that the council tax system is outdated and it is unfair, especially to those people living in towns and villages like our own in County Durham, where the burden of council tax falls disproportionately on our already hard-pressed households. This is more the case today than ever before, given the additional pressures of the current cost of living crisis, high inflation, soaring energy prices, and punishing government austerity, which continues to remove funding from public services, local councils and our communities like our own here in County Durham. Successive governments have had over 30 years to reform the council tax system, but none have taken that opportunity, suggesting perhaps that the entire system is beyond reform and in need of replacement by a fairer and more equitable system. Today we have just two realistic options. We either plough on regardless, doing nothing until the system reaches breaking point, dragging hard-pressed families down with it, or we seek to find a better way of doing things, a way that prioritises the need of families and communities in County Durham over relatively wealthy local authorities in southern England, largely Tory-led, where council tax reaps a significantly higher return than it does here in County Durham. First option, of course, won't benefit anyone, so I'm suggesting this morning that we need to consider the benefits of introducing a proportional property tax, a fairer system that relieves the hardest hit of the heaviest burden, reduces housing market inequalities, frees up homes to those who need them most, a system that actually puts money into people's pockets and kickstarts local economies. Now, given the time restraints and the condition of my voice, I don't intend to set out the benefits of a PPT system in detail at this stage. Instead, we could focus on the core principles of a proportional property tax and also take a closer look at the main benefits. And these include the notion that property tax should be based on actual property wealth. The burden should be shared proportionately. It should be simple to understand, easy to administer and hard to avoid. It should be fair, with wealthier regions supporting poorer ones, and it should relate to a household's ability to pay. If we can accept at this stage, Chairman, that the current system is unfair and that change is necessary, and agree that the benefits of a fairer proportional property tax system outweigh the current burden of the council tax regime, we can then, as an authority, work together with government and any external agency necessary to make change happen for the benefit of our local services and communities, and perhaps more importantly for the benefit of the residents of County Durham, who deserve a better, fairer system after decades of bearing a disproportionately heavy burden of council tax. Next month, the Council will meet to set its council tax demand for the coming year, and the Cabinet's own budget is predicated on a 5% increase in council tax this year, and that's up, of course, from 3% last year. But it doesn't have to be like this. We can actually do something about it. We can kickstart real change by supporting this motion this morning. We know the Council can't impose a proportional property tax policy by itself. What we're asking for is that the Council supports the national campaign to fight for a better and fairer system. So let's see this morning, Chair, how many of us here want to see real change, how many are quite prepared to go along with an unfair and iniquitous council tax system that serves relatively wealthy Tory-run councils in the south of England far better than it does our own hard-pressed households here in County Durham. I move the motion, Chair. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Kevin Shaw, Dordon Ward in Seam. Putting County Durham first, that's what this is about. When I seconded this motion, which Councillor Croughton moved previously, I was at pains to reflect the support that the proportional property tax had, which was cross-party. Indeed, it's now supported by all three Conservative MPs in County Durham. I'd now like to expand upon the benefits such a scheme has, which has been extremely well researched and presented so clearly by Fairer Share. And it's very pertinent, as you only have to look at yesterday's report, the Child Poverty and Cost of Living Crisis report, to reflect upon the shameful poverty we have in this region on a scale which is now unprecedented. But let's look at the benefits of a proportional property tax. It would help alleviate the cost of living crisis. It reduces personal debt. It helps deliver levelling up successfully and without having to pay consultants' fees. It abolishes unfair taxes, which currently see someone living in a £3 million mansion in Wandsworth paying less council tax than someone in a 3-bedroom house in Peterlee. It offers a much better deal for renters. It removes stamp duty. It would reduce intergenerational inequality. It supports local communities. It rebalances the market. It creates a fairer system. It supports infrastructure investment. It supports local democracy. It boosts the economy. It significantly reduces administration, delivering savings, and it's a much simpler system to operate. Again, it has received support from MPs from all parties: Labour, Lib Dem, Conservative, Greens, SNP, Plaid Cymru, and from the Housing, Communities and Local Government Select Committee, and the all-party Parliamentary Group on Anti-Corruption and Responsible Tax. It replaces a broken system which currently hurts families and has seen people imprisoned for being poor, with a system where nobody will be forced into debt due to council tax bills. Polling has shown voters in the north supported 9-1. That's slightly more than locally supported a county deal for County Durham, so the public are watching this today. I formally second
1
the motion.
minute.
Thank you, Chair.
Does any member wish to speak? And I have Councillor Adcock Foster.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Adcock Foster, Merton and Donley Daily Vision. Chair, we might play politics in this chamber at times, but proportional property tax addresses an underlying concern each and every member has in this chamber. Council tax fails to raise sufficient revenues, particularly in areas such as County Durham with a low council tax base and a very high number of band A properties. Council tax also fails to recognise the increased demand we face for services such as looked after children and adult social care. At some point we have to accept that the problem within local government finance isn't the fault of any particular party, though some decisions in recent months are questionable. Ultimately, the overarching problem is a systemic and flawed system of council tax, which takes no consideration of service demand, ability to raise revenues, or our economic circumstances. The government have just rejected all 5 County Durham levelling up bids, £100 million worth of investment, and it's our residents who have to pick up the bill for the government's disinterest in our county and our lack of ability to raise funds. A proportional property tax will at least bring a level of fairness to our taxation system and reflect on a community's ability to pay. It is a flat tax levied at just under 0.5% of a property's value. It means a property of £1 million worth of value in Barnard Castle will be taxed the same as a £1 million property in Surrey or central London. No longer will a modest family home in this county costing £120,000 be taxed more than a millionaire's mansion in central London. Compared to council tax, a proportional property tax would be an immediate economic stimulus, a cost of living lifeline for the people of County Durham. The Fairer Share campaign estimated the average saving in County Durham would be £900 per year, with 100% of residents having their taxes cut. The ruling coalition cannot implement such a policy unilaterally. This motion is asking for Durham County Council to support the campaign and become a champion fighting for fairer, not higher taxes. Politics aside, let's come together, support this motion and seek the change our county is craving. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Bell.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move an amendment to the motion, and I would ask to pause the clock while the amendment is circulated to members, please. And for Democratic Services to indicate when members have received the amendment.
Right, we'll pause for a couple of minutes. Excuse me, please. Order. Councillor Bell, do you want to move that? And have you got a seconder, please?
Thank you, yes. So I move the amendment as printed, which hopefully everybody has seen now, and speak to it as follows. Firstly, we need to make it clear that as a council we can't bring in an alternative local taxation system to council tax. The powers to raise and collect council tax, or indeed any other system, are set out in national legislation. The original motion agreed in December 21 called on us to pursue every available opportunity with government and other agencies as necessary to consider the benefits and feasibility of adopting a fairer system. I can confirm that we have indeed complied with that motion, previously writing to government and repeatedly making the case. In fact, only last week we submitted our consultation response on the provisional local government financial settlement, where we once again raised our concerns over how outdated and regressive the current council tax system is, and how in County Durham we are disadvantaged by our low tax base and consequential low tax raising capacity. We have called on the government to consider setting up a commission to review council tax as a method of funding local government, and as part of this that the government should consider the various options for change available, stressing that the current status quo cannot continue. Options range from updating council tax valuations to abolishing council tax altogether and raising other national taxes to compensate, or introducing, as the motion references, progressive property taxes which take into account the public's ability to pay, or a local income tax is another alternative. A full-scale review of the current system with all the options being considered would be the most appropriate way forward, and that is what we have called for. That is why our amendment calls for a fairer system to replace the current council tax regime. But whatever system replaces council tax, unless it is accompanied by reform of allocating funding from central to local government, we will not solve our problems of underfunding. There are simply not enough high earners or expensive houses in County Durham compared with more affluent areas, whatever system were to be adopted, nor enough business ratepayers for that matter. That is why our amendment calls also for a fairer way of distributing support from central government. I think it's important to remind members how committed this council is to ensuring low-income households are supported. This is reflected in our delivery of up to 100% support through the local council tax reduction scheme for all claimants, pensioners and those of working age. I reported at Cabinet last week that what is already one of the country's most generous support schemes will be made even better by the government giving us an additional £1.44 million. There are 40,000 council tax reduction scheme claimants, 12,900 pensioners and 26,800 working age claimants, receiving 100% council tax support, totalling around £49 million. These people pay nothing and account for around 16% of chargeable properties. Beyond that, a further 7,700 pensioners and 6,700 working age claimants receive some support. On average, 2/3 discounts for pensioners and 47% discount for working age claimant. This council does more than any other council in the region and possibly even in the country to support our vulnerable residents in paying their council tax bills. I would say, members, that the motion tabled today is clearly improved in two clear ways by our amendment, and I would ask all members to support it. Thank you, Chair.
Seconder, please. Councillor Shield.
Thank you, Chair. Can I also thank Councillor Crute for his proposed motion. I believe that we can all agree that the current council tax system has had its day. It is clearly not an efficient or effective way of properly funding local government, and there must be a fairer system which must be adopted and implemented. That said, we must recognise that these are national decisions, and moving away from the council tax as a means of generating funding locally will be a difficult call for any government to take. And I'm minded that Councillor Crute had said that the previous governments of some 30 years, the Labour government from 1997 to 2010, coalition from 2010 to 2015, and the current Tory government. There will be winners and losers across all areas of the country. However, in support of Councillor Bell's proposed amendment, which I believe retains the original intent of the motion put forward by Councillor Crute, in that it calls for government to review the council tax regime and introduce a more equitable and fairer system, but doesn't close off any other option, including proportional property tax, other than the retention of the status quo. Importantly, the proposed amendment recognises that whatever system is implemented in its stead requires the funding generated to be fairly and equitably distributed across all areas, reflecting the differing needs of the individual areas. With that, Chair, and based on the fact that we've already called on Government to set up a commission to review all of the options available, I second the amendment put forward by Councillor Bell. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shield. Does anybody wish to speak on the amendment, please? Councillor Marshall.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, there's a couple of things for me. It's really ambiguous, like we've seen in previous motions. I mean, what is the definition of a fairer system? And I think that's the problem here, isn't it? Here we are, potentially kicking the can down the road again for another 12 months. We've had no feedback other than the statutory consultation response that as a council we've got to make, that Councillor Bell has submitted on behalf of the authority. I'm not sure how many members have seen that. I certainly haven't. But the amendment last year clearly hasn't had any impact or changed any course. So to me, it sounds absolutely ridiculous that we're going to continue to pursue a similar direction of travel. And I can't support the amendment for the simple reason that it doesn't actually propose anything. What is a fairer system? You know, what is the definition of a fairer system? The original motion set down a clear course of action to be part of a much bigger campaign, and from my view, building on what the Leader of the Council said earlier, I think we are better when we're working with others and we're coming forward to try and make change on this scale. And the biggest issue for this with me, Chair, is without an alternative, surely, as a council, we can't continue to pick the pockets of our communities around County Durham by hiking up council tax whilst not lobbying for a fairer, better system on the other hand. I don't think it's fair in our communities. I think we need to back the original motion, vote down the amendment and put something forward that's actually got a bit of teeth and has got national recognition. What is a fairer system, Chair?
Thank you. Councillor Jonathan Elmer.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a point here in relation to the existence of other ideas in relation to a fairer system. I'm speaking as the sole representative of my party, and we support what's called a land value tax. Now, that includes the value of the property on that land. So it is a related thing. But I think people would recognise that the inequality of land distribution is one of the most unfair situations our country faces. So much land being in the ownership of such a tiny proportion of people. And if the current council tax was replaced by a land value tax, you can bring about, you can really tackle that issue of inequality of land ownership, tackle problems such as land banking by developers, freeing up land for wider use, for biodiversity housing, leisure use, localisation of food production. So I want to thank Councillor Croot for bringing forward this motion, because it's really important that we do look at this. But I really do feel that we shouldn't be introducing a motion that closes down the potential of other alternatives. That in fact we need to look at all of those other alternatives, evaluate them, and then come to a conclusion as to which one works best. But of course this is a national decision, and so what we're really doing here is trying to inform the national debate on this matter. So I'll be supporting the amended motion for that reason.
Thank you. Councillor Olwen-Gunn, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm against this amendment. I think that Councillor Marshall has pointed out the wording of this in relation to the use of the word fairer, a fairer system, including a fairer way of distribution support from central government. Now, in my view, the word fairer is actually Tory meaningless. It's meaningless because we know what it means. We know what the dictionary says it means, Chair. It means impartial and just, without favouritism or discrimination, equitable, honest. But unfortunately up here in our county and in right across the north of England, we have no evidence of fairer systems. We have no evidence that the Conservative government has actually done anything to make anything equitable for us, including what we've been talking about earlier in terms of the tossing out of the 5 levelling up bids. So for me, there's no detail in here except talking about a fairer system and what it means. It's meaningless. It's a meaningless way. So it makes this motion absolutely meaningless. And maybe that's the aim of it, to make the motion meaningless. But the other thing that I would say in response to the Green Party is that what Councillor Croot's motion is asking for is actually pursuing every available opportunity to consider the benefits and feasibility of introducing proportional property tax.
1 minute.
So I don't think that it's a good idea to go along with this amendment, because I think it's actually go forward. No detail, nothing whatsoever. Totally against this. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. For those who don't know how to pronounce my surname, I pronounce it McKeon, but you pronounce it McKeown and Island, but I really accept anything, so don't worry, Councillor Bainbridge. It just feels far too vague. I mean, we're talking about giving basically a blank cheque on fairness to a government that let us spend our public money on putting together levelling up bids, only to change the criteria once those bids have been put in. That's an unfairness that's been done against all of us in this chamber. They promised me that they would level up my buses, and do you know what they've done? Now our routes are closing down, and I struggle to get to the food bank I helped to run on a Thursday because of the effect that that's had on my personal timekeeping. We've got a Prime Minister who went to Kent during the summer while he was standing to be Prime Minister, and he boasted to people down there that he'd taken money away from urban areas, deprived areas, and had given it straight to places like Kent. To them, this discrepancy is their idea of fairness. We just can't trust them. And so, look, I know what it's like to deal with people who gaslight you. We've been gaslit as a county for years by this government. And when you're dealing with someone like that, you have to go to them with something concrete and pin them down. I'm more than happy to take any kind of discussion or amendment that comes from the other side on an important issue like this, but please come with specifics so that we can discuss this in specifics in front of our residents who are affected by this. I'm more than happy to hear other ideas. Let's do democracy together and talk about it, but please come with something that we can actually say rather than give a blank cheque to a government that's shown it doesn't care about us.
Thank you. Councillor Danny Wood.
Thank you, Chair. I think for my part, in considering the amendment, there's certainly some irony in the comments that we've heard from the mover of the amendment, talking about a fairer way of distributing support from central government. I think for my part, it's difficult to ignore the role that the coalition government and successive Tory governments since then have played in actually reducing the support from local government to local government. I mean, as a county, we're getting on for nearly 250 million cut out of our base budget since that austerity programme started in 2010. That was a political decision taken in Whitehall to force the burden of taxation onto local ratepayers. And that's something that's happened systematically and is still going on. So I think I definitely can't support the amendment, because the amendment seems to be asking us to take a political decision to continue to look the other way and continue to ignore the fact that the council tax system's broken. So I'll not be supporting the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Declan Mulholland.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to speak against the amendment as well. As Councillor Marshall has said, we've often seen motions watered down, and the sort of fairer system part of it. I mean, if you look at the original motion from Councillor Crute, as Councillor Gunn said before, it's looking about the benefit, pursuing and considering the benefits of feasibility. And I would think this is something that, councillors across the floor could certainly support. And again, I'd echo Councillor Danny's comments before about the irony of including a fairer way of distributing support from central government. Well, as we've seen today in the news with the 511 bids, the question really is, what support are we actually getting from central government? Whereas Councillor Crute's motion addresses that and explores ways that us as a council can raise more revenue in a fairer way, for ourselves, instead of relying on a Conservative government who seem dead set on leaving County Durham behind.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Wilkes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to stick to the motion, but just mention that the definition of gaslighting is manipulating someone using psychological methods into questioning their own sanity or powers of reasoning. Given one of the reports that we passed earlier, it might not be the most appropriate language because it can indicate that someone's bullying or otherwise to somebody. The point I just want to make is there's three words here: proportional property tax, and we're told about needing a fairer system, but who's going to make the decision as to what the definition of a fairer property tax is? Councillor Elmer's already asked the question, is it the building in effect, or is it all the land around it? Is it how much is it of what you own? So that's one differential here with regards to what type of proportional property tax you have. You've then got the question as to, well, you get all this money together, how do you distribute it? Well, the current motion doesn't really say how that would happen, and any government of any persuasion going back 30 years or in the next 30 years could choose however they like to distribute that, regionally, based on deprivation, not based on deprivation. So all this amendment actually does is make sure that we have a fair system, whether that be a proportional property tax, which the current motion might not end up being fair, a proportional property tax where it's proportionate on, give it all to the south of England, because that's where it's raised. So I don't see any reason why we can't support the amendment, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Angela Surtees, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm standing to speak against the amendment as well. I heard colleagues across the chamber there, Councillor Bell, mention that people in Durham are significantly supported in Durham with the council tax, with the local council tax support scheme and, the local council tax. We shouldn't have to do that. I'm sorry, we just should not have to spend our money to support people. What we should have is we should have something that enables people to pay their own council tax, buy their own food, heat their own homes. So I think it's an absolutely fabulous scheme that we are supporting, and we are one of the few councils left to do it. Introduced by Labour when the government took it all away from us in the first place, but there we go again, the government took it away. This motion actually asks for us to, the original motion asks us to pursue every available opportunity to consider the benefits and feasibility of introducing a proportional property tax to replace the current council tax regime. This isn't asking for us to implement this. What this is doing is this is asking this council to explore, to consider the benefits and feasibility of introducing a proportional property tax, a specific, significant thing that we can follow and pursue and ask direct questions about. And then, if government decide that it's no good and it's not unfair enough for them, so that they can't garner money in the higher echelons of Surrey and what have you, then fair enough. Then the next thing is to look at what comes next, because if they chuck proportional property tax out, then the next thing is to look at it, which also probably means they'll chuck out Jonathan Elmer's about looking at the land value element of it as well. And this isn't about the distribution, this is about considering, asking this council to consider the proportional property tax as an opportunity, as a consideration to look at the benefits, the feasibility, to see if it would work.
1 minute.
There's a national, thank you, Chair. There's a national campaign out there, and I think we should be thinking about the residents that we support. I had a chap on to me the other day who lives in an estate in Easington, whereby he has a Band G property and everybody next to him is a Band F. And that's because the Valuation Office is out of date as well. So this proportional property tax would look at both the Valuation Office and an opportunity moving forward. We wouldn't have to then have to put money into the hands of our people. They would have money in their pockets to buy food, to pay their proportional property tax and to heat their homes. So I'll be voting against this amendment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Fraser-Tinsley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I won't be supporting the amendment either. I think there's another point that hasn't been raised here. The original motion was put forward by Councillor Croot in December 2001. And what we have here from Councillor Bell is another attempt at kicking this can down the road. And this is all while our residents in County Durham suffer the real sort of problems that we have spoken about today with the council tax system, which is inequitable, isn't fair for people in our area. What we've done on this side of the room, I think it's clear from the debate that we've had this afternoon, we've looked at this issue and we've identified a proportional property tax as a way forward. It is a fairer way forward, but exactly as Councillor Surtees said, this isn't the end. We would expect the government to consider that, and it may be mended and changed, and you may bring in elements of a land tax as being mentioned there. But I think it's a point of we have to move forward with some solid concrete proposals that we put to government and say at least look at this. Just saying a fairer system is ambiguity, and if we take this amendment on from Councillor Bell today, are we going to be stood here again in another, 13 months' time, having another discussion about this and again asking for a fairer system? Let's just bite the bullet. Let's just get a fairer system for County Durham. Looking at average house prices in County Durham, you'll be told a situation 0.5%, you're looking at something like £900 on average under proportional property tax. We all know, and we'll find out next month at the council meeting, the people in County Durham are going to be paying a lot more than that. So let's just bite the bullet, go with this, we amend it, but I think I won't be supporting the amendment, and I encourage others to do the same. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Hood, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly to ask, can I have a name vote, please?
Have you got 10 members to support? We'll deal with that at the end.
Thank you. Councillor Susan MacDonald, please.
Thank you, Chair. The North East Party had council tax proposals in its manifesto back in 2014, so I'm delighted to debate council tax in this chamber. And in fact, prior to this administration, when council tax rises were being discussed by the then administration, the Labour group, I actually stood up and said, council tax system is unfair, it's outdated, and it needs complete and total reform. The leader, Simon Hennig, at that time did say to me, Susan is absolutely right. I talked about proportional council tax, and someone from across the other side of the room actually said it would bankrupt the council. Now that still stands, actually, that still stands. Proportional property tax would bankrupt this council, because if this council collected the council tax from properties in this county and only got the proportional property tax element of it, we would be in a sad state of affairs. It requires total reform. It requires how we collect the council tax, who distributes the council tax, and it has to be a complete and total reform. I would ask the members from the other side of the floor, what did you do when I said, and your leader said at the time, what did you do about the reform then? Because I couldn't see anything you did, and yet in last year you brought the same question to us. Again, with the same question being asked today, proportional property tax. And it actually says, a motion adopted by this council in 2021 to consider options in introducing a fairer system. And it talks only about proportional property tax. Kevin actually said about fairer share. I've been a supporter of fairer share and sitting with on their committees with them since 2015. I'm delighted that this is being talked about in this chamber, but I'm sorry, proportional property tax, and that is all that's been suggested in this motion, will not work and cannot work for this county. The amendment to the motion is absolutely about adopting the fairer system. The fairer system could include
1 minute, Susan.
Land tax, it could include proportional property tax, but it also has to mean that the burden that we share of our low council tax base has to be shared with central government in the leafy suburbs of London. we will also then share the affluence of their property tax. So the whole system has to be reviewed, not just proportional property tax. And while it stands as just proportional property tax that's been discussed on this motion, I will only ever support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'd just like to support Susan's words there. I think the motion's very clear that it only considers one particular thing. They're talking about specifics. The specifics of your motion doesn't actually say what it is you're going to do for your proportional property tax. Someone said 0.5%. Why 0.5%? Why not 0.4%, 0.6%? We need to be clear what it is that we would like as a county before we go to the government and ask what we want. We don't want to go to the government and say we want a proportional property tax, find out that they agree with us, impose it, and then find out that we bankrupt our council. We need to think very carefully. We need to debate amongst all of us as to what we go and ask for, and what we need to ask for is a fairer system, and we need to consider all of the options that are being presented. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sutton-Lloyd, please.
I'll echo the last two speakers as well about bankrupting the council, but I'd also bring everybody's attention the personal effect that proportional taxation can have on people. I have lots of ward members who live in a property that's maybe of a certain value, but may not relate to their incomes, and we have all the problems then related to, is it fair then? You know, it's really got to be the national debate. It's got to look at all of the aspects, and I'll be supporting the amendment.
There is nobody else registered to speak. Does anybody wish to speak before I bring Councillor Croot in to give his right to reply? Councillor Croot, could I have?
Yes, thanks, Chair. I mean, I concur with most of the people who've supported the motion on what they've had to say, but I should point out that the whole point of the motion was not to impose anything. I'll read from the motion. I know it's not on the screens today, but it is on your iPads and on your papers. It's to consider benefits and feasibility of introducing a proportional property tax. I didn't know we had so many experts on proportional property tax. We've been told what's good about it and what's bad about it. I didn't know that. I want to know what the benefits are. But let's go back to the basics. We're being told by Councillor Bell that there's a better way around this. Now, if you're minded to support this amendment, let's ask Councillor Bell, what are the clear benefits of this mythical solution that appears to have eluded governments and local councils for the last 30 years? Because I don't know what they are. How will that benefit the people of County Durham? What faith as a council can we have in central government to come up with a fairer, better way of distributing wealth? Because I've never seen it in the last 13 years of having this government in place. What I'm asking for, and what I asked for 14 months ago, was for this council to consider the feasibility and benefits of a proportional property tax. Now, 14 months ago, we got an amendment which is virtually identical to the one that we've got today. That tells me, I won't speak for anybody else in the coalition, you can speak for yourselves, that tells me that Richard Bell and the Conservatives don't want a proportional property tax and they don't want to change anything. Because if they wanted to change something, they wouldn't have waited like brought this motion back here today. They would have done something last year in 2021 when they had the opportunity, when they amended almost exactly the same resolution to do something about it. They're done now and they don't want to do now again.
We are now moving to the vote.
Okay, members, so just to clarify, we are moving to the vote on the amendment as has been circulated electronically and on paper. We have a valid request for a named vote, so the way in which you vote will be recorded in the minutes. It's 1 in favour of the amendment, 2 against, 3 to abstain. Please wait for the buzzer before you cast your vote. If you press the wrong button, pressing the right one corrects it. And because the votes won't be displayed on screen, we will read out the result at the end. Votes open.
The vote is now closed. Thank you. Voting on the amendment, 458 against 47, abstentions 0. Amendment is carried. It now becomes the substantive motion. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on it as the main motion? Councillor Joblin? No. No? No? Councillor Marshall?
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, I'm disappointed that the motion's been watered down, but I want to focus on the point that I alluded to and many speakers alluded to before, and this is our definition in the Chamber Affair, and this is a political sort of view, really, I guess, from members in the chamber. And I guess I want to just reflect a little bit on what does fair mean to me. You know, is it fair that the taxpayers in County Durham have to bear the brunt of funding local services? I don't think it is. Is it fair, Chair, that, you know, we wasted £2 million of taxpayers' money on 5 levelling up bids when the government were planning on changing the criteria for those bids so we couldn't apply anyway? No, I don't think it is. I think that's absolutely scandalous. Is it fair that every single person in the country has got to pay the price for a failed Tory emergency budget that didn't just nearly bankrupt the council, but nearly bankrupt the whole country? And we're going to be paying the price for this for decades to come. Is it fair that we have a Conservative Prime Minister that was voted on by not the public, but a small group of elite people across the country? I don't think that's fair either. And I don't think it's fair that we have a Prime Minister of this country and the head of the Tory party that openly campaigned to get elected, talking down our communities in County Durham, saying that our communities in County Durham didn't deserve a fair share and that he hadn't had a chance to go far enough as Chancellor and he wanted another go to finish the job, and here we are. So I don't think any of that's fair, Chair, and I just wanted to make it clear today that I don't think it's fair. I think it's very unfair for our communities. I think this motion today would have given us a real opportunity to try and put something progressive and different and positive forward. And I would like to end with a question, and that is for Councillor Bell. Does he think that any of the things that I've mentioned in that list are fair? And how long is he going to continue to prop up a failed national government that's turned its back on County Durham, our communities and our residents? Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bell, you get a right of reply before we go to the vote.
I have members wishing to speak, but I would like it to be on the motion, please. Councillor Chris Hood.
Thank you, Chair. Just to call for a name vote, please.
That's noted. We'll pick it up at the end.
Councillor Amanda Hopgood, please.
Chair, I'll withdraw what I was going to say because it wasn't on the motion, and I'll address it outside of the room. Thank you.
Okay. So is it time for Richard to come back? There is nobody else registered to speak. Councillor Alwyn-Gunn.
Sorry, thanks, Chair. Just very briefly, I think by making this the substantive motion with this amendment, all we're doing is tossing this into the long grass once again. I'm truly disappointed that the coalition thinks that that's the right thing to do. Thank you, Chair.
There's nobody else registered to speak. Could I bring in Councillor Bell in his right to reply, please?
Thank you, Chair. I won't go through Councillor Marshall's long list and take us an hour debate on what is fairness, because I believe in actually doing the job that I am paid to do and sticking to the point of a motion and sticking to the point of a topic. I think we all know what fairness means in the context of council tax and local government funding. It means how much does a resident pay compared with how much they can afford to pay. It's about deprivation. It's about how much of this council's funding comes from local sources versus how much comes from national sources, etc. There are a number of factors which this council has fed into the Fair Funding Review previously. In answer to, I think it was Councillor Crute who said we've done nothing and we don't propose to do anything. Well, that's not true. We have previously written to government. And only last week I said we wrote to government, but just so the members on that side have an understanding of fairness, because they seem to have difficulty understanding what fairness means in this context. I'm more than happy to work with Mr Darby, the Director of Resources, and members opposite to pull together a response which reflects the spirit and intent of this motion, which is certainly not about kicking a can down the road. It's about trying to get a proper debate going forward and some movement by central government. In terms of inaction, well, I don't think I've been inactive. I know I haven't been inactive. You could ask, where's the Labour government been in all those years that council tax was in operation? Good question. Perhaps we can answer that one on another day. And so I think I've said enough. We've debated this long enough. We have other motions to get to. I'll move to the vote, Chair. And obviously I support the motion as it now stands, being the amendment. Thank you.
So, members, we're voting on the amendment as the substantive motion. So you're voting on the same thing that you did previously. It's 1 in favour, 2 against, 3 to abstain. We do have a valid request for a name vote. So once again, how you vote will be reflected in the minutes. Please wait for the buzzer before you cast your vote. That's the vote open.
The vote is now closed. Thank you. For 101, against 4, abstentions none. Motion is carried. Thank you. Next motion, Councillor Angela Surtees. Can you move your motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Angela Surtees, Easington Division and Shadow Portfolio Holder for Communities and Social Inclusion. And just before I start with the motion, can I just firstly welcome all the WASPI women who have come here today to listen to the motion being presented. We all know that the 1995 Pensions Act, that the government increased the state pension age for women from 60 to 65, with a further increase to 66 in 2011. And the change was not properly communicated to the 3.8 million women born in the 1950s. In fact, it took until 2012, given some only 1 year's notice of a 6-year increase in their anticipated retirement age. So that gives a total of 65,000 women in the North East, of which 35,000 are in County Durham. And just in case I'm asked, that's from the House of Commons Library in 2017. The Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman has found that the Department for Work and Pensions was guilty of maladministration in its handling of the state pension age increase for women born in the 1950s. The All-Party Parliamentary Group on State Pension Inequality for Women has concluded that the impact of DWP maladministration in 1950s born women has been as devastating as it is widespread. The APPG believes that the case for a Category 6 injustice is overwhelming and clear. Women have had their emotional, physical and mental circumstances totally obliterated by a lack of reasonable notice. Nationally, more than 220,000 1950s women have died since 2015 waiting for justice. However, despite Ombudsman's findings, this government is choosing to wait for further reports before taking any action. This is morally wrong. It's a failure, another failure. The government are choosing to ignore findings of their own Ombudsman. Dismiss the swift resolution to this ongoing injustice. Disregard the conclusion of the all-party parliamentary group on state pension inequality have suffered a gross injustice affecting their emotional, physical and mental circumstances, in addition to causing financial hardship. Notwithstanding the injustice these women have encountered, where some have been robbed of over £45,000 and have had to rely on savings and families, but with the impact of austerity and COVID, during which these women did not qualify for any enhanced COVID payments unless they were lucky enough to have secured another job and were eligible for furlough, surely the government should do the right thing and immediately respond to the request of the WASPI campaign, especially with the cost of living crisis we are all going through and the challenges that the WASPI women have faced. The WASPI campaign asks for an immediate one-off compensation payment of between £11,666 and £20,000 to those affected, with the most going to the women who were given the shortest notice period. This council have supported the WASPI women twice previously, in October 2017 and again in January 2020. So I ask members here today to stand in support of the WASPI campaign and support this motion. This council to write to local members of Parliament and to the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions to outline the effects of the injustice to 1950s women on the communities in County Durham and to seek their support for an immediate compensation package. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have you got a seconder, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jake Miller from Trimdon and Thornley, and I second the motion. Whilst the equalisation of rights is something that I'm sure that we'll all agree with, I hope that we can all agree that the decision taken in 1995 by the Tory government had unfair outcomes on a lot of women. In fact, as we've heard, 3.8 million women have been affected by the decision, 65,000 in the North East and approximately 35,000 here in County Durham. And I'll echo Angela to welcome the women here today as well. These women have not been treated equally or fairly because of the decision that was because of the date on which they were born. And what this bottles down to is that they're facing financial hardship. In fact, an online article states millions of households are being plunged into debt, and a WASPI reports that 1 in 4 women born in the 1950s are struggling to make payments on crucial bills, with single women being worst affected. And I'm sure nobody in this chamber would wish any sort of hardship on anybody. And when we see hardship, it's our duty as councillors to ensure that they receive the support that they're entitled to. These women worked hard, put in their time, paid their fair share, and now they're not getting that fair share in return. The cost of living crisis is hitting our residents hard. I had a phone call on Christmas Eve from one of my residents who happened to be a single woman, saying that they had no food, no money, and didn't get paid for over a week. We've got warm hubs to help people. Officers in welfare rights support people day to day alongside third sector charities. So endorsing this motion is another step forward for us to collectively do our bit. And it's not just us. There have been pledges before to ensure that the women born in the 1950s are properly compensated for the failure of government to properly notify them of changes to state pension age. And that's quoted from the LIMDEB manifesto in 2019. Page 66 if anybody wants to have a look. And devolution, that's a popular topic. So I've looked to our neighbours. South Tyneside unanimously backed a motion to do a similar thing. In fact, the only Conservative councillor described the cross-party support as a breath of fresh air. Newcastle have passed the motion. North Tyneside have passed the motion. Stockton are deciding their motion tonight. So let's follow suit, do what's right, do what these women need, not want, because as I've explained, the women are in crisis, they need this, they're entitled to it. So let's do what's right for the women at the back and all the rest of the WASPI women and support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mark-Wilk.
Thanks, Chair. Just a general point. I don't know whether there is anybody in here who's directly affected by this and whether they have or need to declare an interest. 1995.
Sorry to interrupt you, Councillor Marks, just to say that I have already advised on that and members don't need to declare an interest.
1995, that decision was wrong under a Conservative government. 13 years of a Labour government, not fixed. 5 years of a coalition, not fixed. Another pile of years of another Conservative government, still not fixed. I totally support this motion. This should have been dealt with a long time ago.
Councillor Liz Brown.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a WASPI woman and I will be supporting this motion. There's been a lot of talk about fairness today, and I think this is possibly the most unfair thing that has happened to women of my age for quite some time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crispo.
Just making sure you can all see it, just for this short moment in time. On my declaration of interests, I have proudly put on there, I'm a WASPI. I'm also a co-coordinator of Durham WASPI, just in case you're thinking I'm there, it's in big letters. I'm very proud to be a WASPI, and I want to commend the mover and seconder of this, and I'm hoping everybody's going to support it in this chamber, especially before we lose any more of the members. It's horrendous when you have meetings and you find somebody else is gone, especially somebody you've been talking to a couple of months before, listening to the stories. Sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional. These women already knew before it was ever made a daily thing what the cost of living crisis is, because they've had to deal with it. Excuse me. So can you all please support these fabulous, wonderful women, and I'm not including me in this, I'm including all the others throughout the country, but especially the ones here in Durham and supported today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Joyce Charlton.
Joyce Charlton, thank you very Councillor Joyce Charlton from the Tanfield Division. I'm more than happy to support this motion, and I wish all of you WASPI women good luck with your campaign, and well done, because you've stuck with it, and it's just to be commended. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy Hunt.
Cathy Hunt, Woodhouse Close. I would like to thank Councillor Fairbanks for this training, and I'm very happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Alan.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank Councillor Sturtis for submitting this motion? Many members will be involved in this either directly or indirectly. And personally, and probably prejudicially, I'm interested because my wife had to work till she was 66 until she could take her retirement. So I declare that interest. You stated that 35,000 women in the county are being affected, not have been, are being affected by the reforms which raised the female state pension age to 67 by 2028. I'd remind members of this council that we passed a motion in October 2016 to support WASPI, Women Against State Pension Inequality, and subsequently Durham County Council was the first local authority to recognise the impact of travel costs for WASPI, and we now provide bus passes to women currently missing out on benefits they had expected to receive. The Council offers help and advice to WASPI women impacted by these changes via its Welfare Rights team, which specialises in benefits for older people and invites women who are unsure as to their benefit entitlements to contact Welfare Rights for free assessment. Last month, the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman completed and closed its stage 2 of its investigation into the way that the Department of Works and Pensions communicate the changes to women's state pension age and associated issues, and will publish its final report and recommendations in due course, and look forward to looking at those reports and recommendations. However, in 2019, a High Court decision underlined that the Ombudsman is not able to recommend that the DWP reimburse lost pensions or recommends that anyone receive their state pension earlier than the law allows, or gets more state pension that they're entitled to. However, they have stated that the DWP is guilty of maladministration for more than one aspect of their process of communicating the changes to state pension age, and the Ombudsman referenced recommendations which suggest that the compensation be paid to those affected women. This council will continue to support WASPI campaign, which is now calling on government not to drag its feet, essentially running down the clock on WASPI women fast approaching the last stages of their life. With that, Chair, I would like to endorse my support for this campaign and support the motion as put forward by Councillor Surtees, which is in line with the supported motion previously agreed in 2016, and contact with local members of Parliament and the Secretary of State for Work Pensions will be undertaken in due course. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chris Hood.
Thank you, Chair. Just 3 quick points. 1, thank you, Councillor Surtees, for the motion. 2, I will be voting for it. And 3, can we have a name vote? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you can have a name vote.
There's nobody else registered to speak. Can I invite Councillor Angela Surtees to give her right to reply?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you everybody who spoke on this. I'm really pleased that there's lots of people looking to support this motion. It's the right thing to do, and we'll move to the vote if that's okay, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's the same process as before, but this time we're voting on Councillor Surtees' motion. It's 1 in favour. Well, we've had a request for a named vote. So, as a named vote, otherwise we might have done it without. So we will need to vote. It's 1 in favour, 2 against, 3 to abstain, and the way in which you vote will appear in the minutes. Vote's open.
The vote is now closed. The vote on motion for 105, against 0, abstention 0. Motion is carried. Due to the time, we only have a few minutes left. Councillor Stade, I propose that we defer your motion to the March meeting so that debate is not cut short. Do you agree?
I agree with that, Chair.
Thank you. Questions from members? There are no members' questions for today's meeting. That concludes today's business for today's meeting. I would like to thank everyone for taking part, and to those members of the public and the media who have watched this meeting. The broadcaster will confirm it has ended.